Hi, and welcome to the SG Child Show. I'm so excited today to introduce a wonderful guest, Matt Ross. He is coming from the East Coast, and I'm over here, kind of in Utah. I don't know what you would call that, the Western-ish, but it's a beautiful day. As you can see, we got some sun coming through today, and we're just really excited to start this new year off. This will be the first episode in the new year as well. So I can literally say that because it will be coming out tomorrow, Matt. I hope you're ready for that. Exciting. So we can talk about everything kind of from today because this will be very relevant. Well, except for those who are listening again in the future. So great to have you here today. Please give us an introduction. Tell us about yourself and what brought you
Sure.
here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And by the way, I think they refer to it as the mountain states, right? Like,
Oh, yes, I guess you're right.
yes.
Yeah, I am
and
in
I
the
have
mountain states. That's
and
for
I have
sure.
skied I have skied those mountains. Hi, I'm Matt Ross. I am joining you today as actually in a new stage of my life. I'm a first-time author with a book coming out, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But my background has largely been in entrepreneurship and in the media business. I spent the first part of my career building and running radio stations around the country, and when terrestrial radio was a thing, and I had quite a fun career. And then I left in 2005 to be the CEO of a company called the School of Rock, which was somewhat of a startup at the time, and helped build that brand. And for the last decade plus, I've been running an art school concept in 6 states. We have 15 locations called One River School. But I'm also the parent of a severely disabled nonverbal autistic son who's 30. And the journey of raising him has probably provided me with my greatest life learnings.
I couldn't agree more with that last statement. My children have literally been the leaders, the guides of my experience with them as far as that goes and where we are today. And it's so interesting when you're, talking about some days like, oh, when I was growing up, and you think about that time frame, that's such a little time frame in your life compared to the vast amounts of years that pass that and all of the knowledge you can gain and everything. But I find it so interesting to think about that time period that we always kind of go back to, if you will, like my childhood. And I don't know why. I don't even know why I just picked up on that
No,
subject. But
I think it's an
yeah.
interesting point. I find myself thinking about that because my book is both part memoir and what I would call a self-help methodology. And what's interesting is the book comes out on the 14th of January. People who have gotten an advance copy said, "Gosh, I didn't know those things about you." I share a little bit about my childhood journey and what took me to adulthood and the challenges I faced. And I started to think a little bit about all the people I've met over the last 30, 40 years. They don't know the journey I walked when I was 8 and 10 and
Yeah.
12 and 14. It's those clusters of people who you really, grew up with, who knew you as a young kid. And so people have been sort of astounded to learn a little bit about some of my background on the streets of Queens, New York, and so on and so forth. And so I was really happy to share that and get that feedback, and interested to hear you say what you just said.
Yeah. I just think that it comes up in a lot of my adult conversations with other people. And so I think that it's something that we maybe don't realize that we focus on so much and or put so much emphasis into our lives and who we are. And then we spend, you know, you and I at least, 20, 30 years building onto that person and becoming just ever so vast in our experiences and our knowledge. And especially when we have a situation with a communication in our family with especially with a child, it changes the dynamic of everything that you've ever known. It's almost like
Hmm.
go into a cocoon, literally melt into a new and metamorphosis completely and come out as a brand new person. And you carry that and add to it as you go from there.
I love the way you describe that. I agree. I really do. It's the
I know
life.
it made me a
That's
little
the life
emotional just
journey.
saying it.
No, it's the life journey, and I talk about that a
Yeah.
lot with friends and family.
Yeah. Tell us about your kind of why you decided to write the book. Like where was the urge? What was that moment where it was like, aha, this is going to be happening?
Yeah, so it's funny because I have a very specific moment when I had that aha moment. I was having breakfast in 2018, and I was sitting there having coffee, and I said to myself, "Damn, I feel really good." And for me to say that was such a strange thing because I had been clawing and fighting and grinding and just trying to stay ahead of this, you know, catastrophic challenges that I faced at 50 years old. And at this point, it was about 7 years later, and I really had done so much work on myself. Prior to that, I mean, I was successful, I was hardworking, but I always figured that if I just stayed in motion and just kept moving and going, throwing my whole body into work and all these things, things would figure themselves out. But then at 50, things were just really broken. So when I was sitting here having breakfast that day, I said, gosh, maybe I should write a book. I could help people. And that was how the book was born. By the way, the title of the book is Grow or Fold: Transform Yourself in Midlife and Beyond. And really in my 50th year, and I could walk you through it, I had 5 really serious, almost catastrophic challenges simultaneously that could have broken me.
Mm. It's when our biggest challenges come and we like are so uncomfortable and get through those stages that we can stand on the other side and look back and appreciate almost some of it, most of it, because it's something that we learned from. I think that, at least for me, I always appreciate things I've learned from. I may not have wanted to go through them maybe in the pattern or way that I had, but I think that I personally, do the same. I move very now intentfully through my days and through my time and want to make sure I'm making the most of it. But I love what you said that was kind of like the pivotal reason that you wrote the book, and that was to help others. And that is my heart-centered journey on this earth, is to help others. And that's what it all comes down to. And someone said to me once, if you and this is for everyone, not just to, he said to me, for everyone. If you have a story and you're not telling the world, you're doing an injustice to everyone you know, because there's something you can teach just in the experience you've had. And we don't recognize sometimes that even the bagger at the grocery store or someone that we might see as insignificant, they have a story, and something can be learned from whatever they can share. And even my friends that are Down syndrome, and I there's always something I'm always learning from these wonderful people. And it's so I feel so lucky to be able to experience it in a way that I don't see other people experiencing it.
Yeah, so I agree with you again. I'm fascinated by people. I'm fascinated by what makes them tick. And it's a function of a few things, right? Like their genetic programming, their journey, and what they have experienced. And I do agree with you. Most people don't sort of share their journey. They may not have a platform to do so. in my world, I had always been involved with building businesses where I wasn't the brand, and I was really thoughtful about promoting the bigger brand. And as somebody who was building businesses and then running businesses, I just always felt that I would sort of be really cool if I got credit for building the business from the people who I cared about, but I didn't need to be the guy in front of the microphone. I wanted to showcase other folks in my company or the brand itself. When I got to this stage in life, I realized I looked back on my journey and I had numerous stories to tell, some in business and entrepreneurship, some in early childhood development, some in creative education and music and art and these things. And then clearly the journey of raising a complex son. And that sort of basket was maybe my unique basket. So that's, the second title to the book, which I'll show you here. I think
Oh,
it's
I
behind
love you.
me.
Thank you.
Yeah, down here, Life Lessons from a Creative Entrepreneur. And so at the very root of how I would define myself is I have been building things, fixing things, and and I've been blessed with some skills to do it well. But what I did here was I now sort of learned to treat myself as a business.
Mm,
And how do I make myself the business that I need to fix and apply a really sort of objective, unemotional approach? Because I probably wouldn't have been healthy if I didn't really do things differently. And I needed to step back and look at myself differently because things were really, challenging. So,
mm,
so the story here is one of reinvention in some ways, maybe an overused term, but it truly was because I probably saved myself in a lot of ways, and my family and my career and a whole bunch of other things.
wow, that's incredible. Excuse me. I I think that when you held your book up, like a kind of an urge or a sense came to me, and it reminded me of, if you will, maybe is it an analogy? We'll call it that, of origami and life,
Mm,
and how a paper is straight when you start with it, but when you want to make something, you destroy the straightness of that page, and you fold it and you bend it
yeah.
and you make it and you correct it into other things, and
Yes.
sometimes you tear it
Yes.
and you have to start over, or
Yes.
all of these things. That I was trying to tell my 14-year-old this. I'm trying, because she likes origami, and I'm trying to explain to her, sometimes you have to collapse, sometimes you
Yeah.
have to destroy what you're like, everything, to build the beautiful thing. And it's it's more about, and I'm trying to teach her this now, the intentions that you're putting into everything, and how you're doing that, and how you are taking, I guess, advantage instead of for granted all of the time you have to set those things and work on those dreams and manifest those things that you want. And I think it's important that, and it's special that I get this opportunity to work with her to do these things that I've
I love
learned,
it.
that I'm seeing so much success for myself with. Um, and yeah, it just, when you held that up and I saw the grow and fold, it just completely reminded me of that.
I love that.
I'm just full of all of these interesting little things I come
Well,
up with
you
to
know,
teach my kids.
I have spent a lot of years now around the art space and the contemporary art space. And something interesting, because when I look at this book title and the cover that we design, um, text is art actually too.
Oh,
And there's a lot
absolutely.
of text-based artists. And, you know, this is a very simple saying, and yet I wanted it to sort of dominate in a very powerful way because there's a choice that we have in life.
Mm.
The choice is to continue to find ways to get better,
Yeah.
smarter, healthier, happier, do more for others. That's a choice, right?
Yeah.
Or you can just kind of stay where you are or decline and
Mhm.
fold. And people, particularly as they age, they need a kick in the butt sometimes because we get stuck in our habits. We are challenged. Our bandwidth isn't as great, maybe in some ways.
Yeah.
And it's fuel. So, like, I'm a lifelong learner, and I've been that guy. My wife made fun of me forever because I probably set the Guinness Book of Records for most self-help books ever read. And we could be having a spat, and she'd go read another self-help book. And I would
That's
laugh,
great.
and I go, it is kind of funny that she just said that,
Yeah.
but what was interesting when I was telling you what fueled this book, I was sitting having breakfast, and I said, hey, God, I feel great. And I never really ever said that in my whole life.
Mm.
Everything was always a grind, trying to grow, trying to not fold. And because I come from very humble roots and troubled, upbringing,
Yeah.
and so I got to this place where I I I felt that we as humans put so much time into our learning and development up into a certain point, and then we just stop cold
Yeah.
because we have all the tasks and chores and
Mm.
responsibilities, but we're not putting the good fuel in that's helping us challenge our thinking. And
Exactly.
so that's a big part of my mission here is that people invest in their creative side too.
Mhm.
That
Absolutely.
playful side that we give up when we leave high school sometimes,
I
most of the
know.
time.
It's not the truth.
Yeah.
No, I do feel like that. I think that's a great reminder is playfulness is a great reminder. And I have a wonderful mantra that I love to say, and you had said something similar to this in the beginning of this just set or paragraph. I don't know what you call it. What you were just saying. Anyways, it's the better it gets, the better it gets. And
Mm,
I just love repeating that to myself and saying that. And it makes me focus on the next best thing and what can I do to do the next best thing. And sometimes it's not until I'm 3 weeks into a bad Love Island depression spell that I'm realizing, oh my gosh, I've been sitting on the couch for 3 weeks watching Love
right.
Island back to back. I need to get out of here. So,
So
yeah.
I'm sure you've heard of Stephen Covey. Um,
Yes, yes.
yeah, so I really benefited so much by studying his work. And it's like a simple saying, if it is to be, it's up to me. And that's like 8 words with 2 letters each. If it is to be, it's up to me. Maybe nine words. But, you know, in the book, I write about, there's almost like, for me, there's 5 things, 5 levels. First of all, it's about being self aware.
Mm.
And so many of us lose that sense of self awareness. We have to put on that mask, or we have to puff out our chests and act like we know it all, or we can't ask for help, or we sort of rationalize why we do what we do. So, if you want to get to a better place, first you have to take inventory and really be self aware to understand what needs to be fixed. And then, part two, take personal responsibility.
Yeah.
Those two work hand in hand, right? Diagnose what's broken, what you want to improve, and then take responsibility for it. And I find so many people struggle with that for so many reasons. And I'm not here to point fingers. Maybe they need help and assistance and guidance and coaching, and they're afraid to ask or don't have the time, because if you combine those two with, change is really hard. That's the third one. But guess what? The fourth one, not changing is worse.
Ooh, that's for sure. Yeah.
And it's sort of like people need to look within. And I love the fact that it's a new year and this is always a beginning and we have choices to make. I was at dinner over New Year's and who's got resolutions? And 92% of the people said, nah, I don't do that anymore. And I said, cool, let's not call it New Year's resolution. Is there one thing you want to do differently or better? Forget what we label it. And then
Yeah.
people looked at me like I had three heads. Like, why are you trying to get serious here at a New Year's party? And I'm like, I'm sorry, gang, you're right. I'm just kind of wearing this like I want to help others hat a lot these days. And I will back off right now and just let you think about it.
I think my word, if you will, for 2026 is focus. Focus. I want to really get going on that project I told you about that I'm working
Yeah,
on. And it's so important to me. I want to be able to stream free access for everyone as soon as I can. And I
yeah,
think that it's just been this um born out of a meditation idea, which was absolutely it feels like everything moves in the right direction when you start it from the right place, you know. um and so it's been an incredible kind of moving into 2026. But I also, it you can take all of this time and all this focus, like your son is 30, mine are only 16 and 14, and so I still have this in home, and I don't know if
yes,
your son still lives with you either, but I still have this in home responsibility to
yeah,
nurture their well-being, and they're raising them and everything. And so having conversations like this with you, where I can gain an insight into a journey that I have
mm,
not yet stepped into, is so powerful. And I'm so grateful to you, and so grateful for the information and the kind of awareness, if you will, of what has worked and what hasn't, because I think there's so much to gain from
yeah,
a tiered kind of relationship. You have the person that might be on the very beginning of their journey, and you can just hold your hand out and say, here, take my hand, and I'll help you right now. And I can give you all of this information I've learned. And then you have the person that's on the same journey as you are, where you can share in these, oh my gosh, teenage hormones, like, help me stage. And then you get to, kind of where you're at, where it's like, oh my gosh, thank you. Now I can reach out and extend to someone who's been through and can help me to see and be more insightful of how to move forward in a more productive, nurturing, fostering way for myself and everyone.
yeah. So let me share a little bit about that part of my journey raising Alex
Yeah.
and where we
Thank
are and
you.
how we got there, because it was probably one of the greatest motivators for me to write this book and to be in a position to help people who are in the challenge on the front lines raising kids on the spectrum right now. And depending upon where they are and how severe or not, you know, we, no matter what, you need a customized plan. Um, but in our case, when I was 50 and I described those issues, just one of those core issues that year was that my son, who had been in probably some of the he'd been in schools for the most behaviorally challenged kids, nonverbal, struggling. Over 3 months, his behavior declined. He had a full-on psychiatric breakdown at 16, as you mentioned it, going through puberty. And he pulled the hair out of his head,
Yeah, we have
just to
the
give you a
triple
sense.
mania here in our
Yeah,
family too.
yeah.
Get that 100%.
We rushed him to the hospital. We got him to a psychiatric center in Westchester County, and we left him there that night. And he was bolted down in bed with suicidal teens and
Yeah.
other teens with drug abuse. And honestly, that night was how Grow or Fold was in some ways born, because even though I didn't write the book for 7 years later, I sat in my basement and said, am I going to fold?
Yeah.
I had also four parents dying. I was out of a job, two brothers lost to addiction, and I was having health issues. All of that. And then Alex's issue, his breakdown crystallized this moment. I'm either going to fold, literally, may not live long if I don't really take charge. But to fast forward, just to speak to parents of kids on the spectrum, you know, if you think about what I said earlier about treating yourself like a business, you kind of have to also think about the journey as if it is a business plan too.
Mm.
I knew right then and there, when I knew it earlier, that if something happened to Susan and I, and we had not had a really solid plan in place for Alex, I mean, that would have been my whole life would have kind of meant nothing.
Yeah.
And I mean, I could get emotional talking about it too, because, this boy depended upon us and for 24/7 care. And we were early adopters, I hate to say it, because he's born in 95 and there were little to no resources. So we just did our best to advocate. We knew Alex couldn't be home long term. Some folks struggle with that. I'm never going to give up on my kid. They're going to stay with me forever. Whether or not that's the right decision, they have to make that decision.
That's so
That's
true.
not for me to make.
Yeah.
But I will say that so I'm looking through the lens right now of something that I'm thinking about that I call as the autism tsunami.
Mm.
And what does that mean? It means the demographics right now are quite challenging. In my state, where we have our primary home in New Jersey, there's 8,000 people on a waiting list for housing.
Yeah.
And there's probably another 8 or 10 who haven't even applied. And if you multiply that across the 52 states, you're talking a 500,000, 1,000,000 people. If those families, parents age out or get sick, these kids could be wards of the state. So one thing that I'd like to say to people is we found ourselves a really great special needs attorney
Mm.
who gave us a very clear sense of the options available to us and good counsel on how to navigate the sort of steps through high school, through his 22nd year, and into adulthood. And fortunately, today, Alex is in a group home in northern New Jersey, cared for by people who, I think love him.
Yeah.
And like, so again, I get emotional, but like,
Of
what would
course.
have happened
Right.
if we didn't have that plan?
Oh, I think that for our community, it is one of the highest priorities that possibly isn't touched on enough. And that
Yeah.
is to get, special needs trusts in place and
Yeah.
plans, things like that. And I
And
do.
if I could just add something, because of my business background, which is really my strengths are in strategy, and it's this idea of building a long-term strategy is something that has to take center stage. You then get to be the person who builds that strategy with the proper counsel. But the earlier you start to understand the playing field, the resources available to you, the better, because
Mhm.
you're playing a chessboard and you want to take advantage of every piece of information and resource. And this is an area where I just hope to be able to help people by sharing my story, what we did. Ours was a little simpler because Alex was so severe. In some respects, it makes the caregiver challenge even more linear. We knew when he left that psychiatric center, he then got accepted into a residential school. He couldn't come home. And that moment, he was dangerous. At
Yeah.
16, he was a big guy. He couldn't control himself. He turned 17, went to a place in Maryland, the Benedictine Center. They did the most extraordinary job. He built independence.
Mm.
He built himself up.
I love that.
And then when he came home, he had to return back to New Jersey, and we had a plan in place.
Mm.
So we were fortunate, less fortunate because we had such a severe challenge and the road was so hard and so difficult for so many years, but fortunate in some ways because it was very linear. We
Mm.
needed to have the resources in place, the funding, and the support systems
Mhm.
to get him cared for.
Yeah, definitely. I think that that's a priority for so many families. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I'm glad that you brought it up. I think that it's a wonderful reminder, especially going into the new year. Listeners, maybe take heed of this information and move on it quicker and do it this year. Don't wait till next year. Don't wait till they're close to 18 and guardianship and things like this. Like, do it now while you or if you're already past those stages and you're realizing, wow, I didn't know that there were these other types of resources available. Now you can have the opportunity to take advantage of some of those things that are available for you. And there are so many resources now. And it sounds like a lot like Matt. Very I find resources very easily, and I love helping people and offering those to them. So please reach out to either of us if that's something that
By the
you
way,
are
people
looking.
can find me at mattross.com,
Yeah,
matt
we're
at
doing that now.
mattross.com.
Perfect.
And and there's another component to the book where I sort of help people figure out their challenges and take inventory, but it's also about building a vision for yourself. You know, I'm going to say something that I hope doesn't sound selfish,
I hope that's
but
right.
we put so much into raising our special kid. I also wanted to have some room in my future life for myself and my wife,
Yeah.
my other boy. So I created this concept called your MVP, my vision plan, MVP 10, 10 goals for 10 years. And it started off with the things I needed to do immediately. But I also gave myself a moment to think and close my eyes and dream like, if my life looked great 10 years from now, what would it look like? And I found that to be so uplifting because while we were constantly fighting and challenged and struggling and grinding with all of the daily tasks and raising Alex, I was still at least thinking optimistically and in an inspirational way about God, when I get to my 60s, what could life look like? And I freed myself up to not feel selfish, to think that I might have other things that I could do, like work a little less and travel a little more and write a book. No, that wasn't in my plan. I didn't know I was going to write a book. But so I kind of believe that this vision plan, you need to obviously figure out how to be great parents and what is in there, but also what else do you get with this precious time we are here?
Yeah.
What else do you get to do?
Mm. I love that. Comes right back down to those self-help books, doesn't it? And really, how can
Well,
you get yourself just the best for yourself, which then provides for your family?
it
It's a
does.
trickle
And
down.
I said decided to treat myself like a business. And great businesses start off with a vision.
Yeah.
Like, what do we want to look like? What are we building? What is this product, resource thing? And down the road, what need will we serve and fill? And then it's goals and strategy and plan. Nobody does that for themselves. I shouldn't say nobody. It's really hard to do it for yourself.
Yeah.
Not everyone's blessed with that kind of strategic skill set, number one,
Yeah.
or has the toolkit to do it. And it's hard to take the time and just sit and think, right? We feel like we got to be busy all the time, getting stuff done and doing tasks and chores. But the idea of thinking and planning and dreaming is a wonderful one. And it
Mhm.
really helps free you up to have a sense of, I mentioned Stephen Covey, work backwards from the end in mind.
Mhm.
That's one of his 7 habits. Can you see exactly where you want to get to? And I will tell you, there's a higher correlation between people who have a very clear sense of what they want to accomplish and their sense of happiness.
Yeah. I would say that is so true. And like you said at the beginning, and for everyone to remember, it is a choice. It's a daily choice. You wake up, you choose yourself. You wake
Yep.
up, you don't choose yourself. You decide. So,
Yep.
and my husband likes to say, you want to either be the hero or the victim. And I'm sure that somebody else, has said that previously, but he likes to remind the people around him, like, don't. And then, we have to remind him sometimes too, but isn't that the way it goes? That's what we're here for, is supporting one another and really giving. I think when you give out of consideration and want for love and for help for others, then they also are open to receiving more than if you are demanding that
So I'm
they
going to share
listen.
something
Yeah.
that you probably maybe never heard. That there's a book out there called Aging Well. So when I was going through this process of really trying to figure myself out, I'd lost a father to a slow decline from Parkinson's, and it was really
Mm.
sad. My
Yeah.
grandmother died of Alzheimer's, so I knew I had this neurodegenerative disease in my genetic coding.
Yeah.
And I was now all of a sudden worried, am I going to get Alzheimer's? So I started reading voraciously. I read this book, The End of Alzheimer's. But a therapist at the time handed me a book called Aging Well. And without telling, and they track all these people over decades and try and figure out what did these folks who lived longest in happiness do. One of the things that came up was a term called generativity. Generativity, think of Yoda in Star Wars.
Mm.
Yoda he's the quintessential example of I've got wisdom and I'm going to share it and pass it along to help you. So you've talked a lot today about helping others. And I'm aboard that bus, wrote the book to help others. But do you know that it helps you live longer? Because
Mm.
it adds to your purpose and
I like that.
it adds to your emotional well-being. I think it
Yeah.
reduces stress. We are all, including me and everyone, we tend to be a bit self-centered because we have stuff to do. We need help. We're struggling. But gosh, giving out to others, and this is new for me. When I say it's new in the self-help broader sense. I've always been a manager in a business environment who's been very motivated to help my people find their magic, be the best they can be at work.
Yeah.
But I never had the platform to do it outside of work like I do today.
I love that too. And I'm just so lucky that I, just started kind of piece by piece in community and groups, just kind of offering, advice, I guess, or just an ear to listen. And I think that it started building these connections and this um, community leadership. Or, I mean, I'd like to be humble, but at the same time, like it's grown to be such a beautiful, amazing thing where, now I get emotional and when people reach out to me and they're like, oh my gosh, I heard this on the news. Like, what do you think? What should I do? And I just am like, wow, people are like really trusting me when they come to me with these things. And it's just such an honor and a pleasure to be able to hold this, this platform and this standard for people to be able to come and be themselves wholly and be belonging wholly, which I think is what we all really want and desire when it comes down to it, is that connection. And so this is definitely a place for connection. And I want to invite you back because we didn't even get any sentences in about the School of Rock. And I'm totally like, oh my gosh, I've been like, okay, how am I going to work this in? But like, I just want to invite you back so that we can do another episode about that and talk more about that.
Do you want me just to sing a little Led Zeppelin for you or
Oh my
something?
gosh. Would I say no?
Ah, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm going
Okay.
to embarrass
You're so
myself.
funny. Oh no, this has been so much fun. And remember, if you want to connect, please mattross.com for those of you who are listening. Also go and get your copy of Grow and Fold. And does it have a further title?
Grow or
Show
Fold, transform yourself in midlife and beyond. By the way, we
perfect.
actually have an endorsement from Mel Robbins. And if you don't know Mel
Wonderful.
Robbins, she is setting the world on fire.
Yes.
Marshall Goldsmith, who wrote What Got You Here Won't Get You There, and Jack Canfield,
Love
who wrote
that.
Chicken Soup for the Soul. So I'm pretty proud. The book is out next week, and
I'm really proud of
I'm
you
just
too.
really proud of this.
Wonderful. Wonderful job. So
Thank you.
excited to have you here today to talk about it and
Thank you.
to really honor and just like give our hands up to you for doing this work and really being vulnerable and coming from a place that is so heart-centered and in teaching. And I think that, like you said, that I didn't even know that I was aging well by so I love it. Everybody check that, that's incredible. Please just be kind, keep giving. Love and light to everyone is just that choice once again to wake up and decide that you're going to be the person that others feel safe with, that you can be a guide and a light, in the dark days that we're having in this world. And yeah, that's crazy. So thank you so much for your
My
time
pleasure.
today. It's
Thank
been
you. Keep doing
so
what you're doing.
Yes, I absolutely. Like I said, this will be coming out tomorrow on January 7th. So everyone will be able to just check this out fresh from the press. So exciting. Again, thank you so much, mattross.com. Go and get your book. And I'm sure that it's available on Amazon and other
It
platforms
is.
like that as well. So any last words before we go?
You know what? Be kind to yourself. Like,
Thank you.
it's hard. Everything's hard. Nothing's easy. And success and ambition and managing everything. But if you can just step back and just sort of be kind to yourself and say it's not selfish to have dreams of happiness, health, etc., with a little gratitude, try and define those things down the road and take your steps and invest in some growth and some learning and take some classes because what got you here may not get you there at some stage of your life. You need to add good fuel to your brain.
That's so true. I think it's just wonderful advice, and I can't imagine doing anything else. It's like, I love that. So thank you. And
Thank
it's
you.
so exciting to have this New Year's episode coming out. And so I'm just so honored and happy to all of my listeners and all of my followers. Thank you, thank you, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Please reach out if you need anything, sjchildshow@gmail.com. And we'll see you on the next episode.